At the gallery, Ava introduces Joel Sartor, whose new book inspired the latest display. Joel thanks Ava and Trina for welcoming him back and discusses his latest book, which focuses on infant animals. Ava and Rick talk about GH. Cody accidentally spills his drink on Liz, and Rick hurries over to rescue. Ava fumes and mumbles to herself, saying he can't take his hands off her. Cody then takes Ava away to talk. Trina appreciates Joss and Joe's visit. When they question where Kai is, Trina responds that Drew must have kept him working late. At the Metro Court pool, Ezra meets with Drew and offers him everything he needs to score a hit on Sunny and Laura. What did Stella do? Laura picks up Martin from the hospital, and he complains that Tracy is to blame for his back problems. She cautions him that going to war with Tracy will result in no one winning. She tells him to focus on his recuperation. Marco arrives and meets Lucas, who returns his mother's personal items. Marco believes Sunny is to blame for his mother's death, regardless of what the police or autopsy findings say. Portia and Stella discuss the gallery show, and Curtis hasn't notified Portia whether he'll be attending or not. She acknowledges they're having troubles. Stella says they need to remember what they mean to one another. Stella sees Martin with Laura, and Martin refers to her as his medical bill savior. She informs him that they must speak in private. They go somewhere to talk, and Martin expresses his gratitude to Stella for helping him get his insurance reinstated. She tells him to keep it low, because what she did might land them both in trouble. Ezra makes a scene. Ezra enters, expresses his condolences to Marco, and promises to do all in his power to bring Sunny down for his mother's death. Suddenly, the press arrives and asks Marco if his mother was laundering money for Sunny, and if he has any comments on her murder. Ezra takes advantage of the publicity, while Marco maintains his mother's death was tragic. Laura walks around the corner, and the cameras focus on her when Ezra asks if she will condemn Sunny for Natalia Ramirez's killing. Laura claims the issue has been closed, and she will not sling mud at him in front of a bereaved family member. Ezra turns to Marco and asks whether he is aware that the PCPD held Sunny for up to 24 hours following his mother's murder. Marco warns Ezra that he will not allow him to politicize his mother's death, and that if he continues to harass him, he would take legal action. Later, Marco informs Laura that he knows what sort of guy Ezra is, but he also says, "Shame on you," for thinking of Sunny as a friend, as he blames him for his mother's murder. Michael calls for help at Sunny's. Carly cries at him that their children's lives are in danger as a result of the war with Sidwell. They cannot continue retaliating or someone will die. At the Q's boathouse, Michael informs Sasha that she and Daisy cannot go on their own because it is unsafe. She wonders what he'll do. Hire her a bodyguard? Michael had a better idea. Michael phones Jason and arranges to meet him at the boathouse. Jason leaves Sunny's house and Carly encourages him to admit it. When Jason stated Michael was on the phone, his heart stopped. Sunny warns Carly that Sidwell must face the repercussions of his actions, or their children would be in much greater risk. Carly claims this is a trap, and he must get Sidwell to back off. Stop the violence now before they lose someone else they care about. Jason arrives at the boathouse and learns from Michael and Sasha what happened to Daisy. Sasha believes she and Daisy need to leave Port Charles, and Michael agrees that it is not safe for them. Jason asks where she wants to go. We don't know what their destination is, but Jason says he'll notify Michael once they reach safely. Sasha takes Daisy to the house to feed her and promises she'll stay in her room every night until they depart. Alone, Michael acknowledges he has no idea how he will do this. He has no idea when or if he'll see his daughter again, and he'll miss out on all of her milestones. Jason understands his grief, having had to walk away from Danny and Jake several times, but he also knows that none of this is his fault. Drew wins at Aurora, and Kai overhears Felicia tell Curtis that Jacinda has escaped. He interrupts and Felicia departs. Kai admits that he told Drew what he was planning. Curtis accuses him of meddling in issues he has no knowledge of. Kai explains Drew had a right to know because what he was about to do would harm Willow and the children, not just Drew. Suddenly, Drew enters and Kai reveals he confessed to Curtis. Curtis reminds Kai that he does not know the real Drew, and will have to tell Trina what he done. Kai is aware of this and leaves. Curtis slams Drew for putting Kai in this situation, while Drew claims he is the victim. Drew blasts Curtis' wife for drugging him and Curtis for plotting to use Jacinda against him. Drew informs Curtis that he can either go to the PCPD and the hospital and arrest him and Portia, or he can do something to help him. Drew requests that Curtis print that Sunny was held for 24 hours as a person of interest in Natalia's death, and that he also print her autopsy report. Rick and Ava play games back at the gallery. Portia arrives, and Gio listens as Sidwell informs Jordan that he wishes to continue the inquiry into Natalia's death. He urges her to go to Anna and inform her that Sunny is going to transfer Natalia to Belize, and the records should be ready at the airport. Perhaps Natalia committed herself rather than face what Sunny had planned for her. Emma appears and speaks with Joss about how lovely animals are and how terrible testing on them is. Joss claims she hasn't found anything, and Dalton hasn't even allowed her into his lab, so what does she want? Emma says she just wanted to say goodnight before heading out to meet Vaughn. After assisting Liz, Rick draws Ava away from Cody to chat alone. He lashes out at her for flirting with Cody as a punishment for giving Liz attention. Ava claims he's captivated with Liz and can't even see it. Jordan speaks with Portia and informs her that she is not the type of lady to interfere in other people's relationships, so whatever happens is her and Curtis' responsibility. She assured Curtis that they would only interact at work or with family. Portia insists she doesn't believe anything she says. Gio warns Grandpa, then goes to Sunny's, and Carly leaves after saying what she wanted to say. Gio cautions Sunny about overhearing Sidwell's plans, but Sunny tells him to stay out of it. Gio replies, "Grandpa, I just thought you should know." Sunny says he disagrees with a lot of Tracy's statements, but she was correct in telling him to stay away from him. Sunny claims he's made errors, and the people he cares about are frequently injured, so all he can do is protect his family. He does not want Gio to listen in on Sidwell or anyone else for him. Joss meets her mother at the pool, and Carly says she simply wanted to tell her she loves her. Joss inquires if anything happened. In the show's final moments, Rick encourages Ava to be friendlier to him, because she has profited greatly from his tragedy. Ava claims that without her, he would have no idea who was responsible for his misery. She lashes out, claiming that he is merely a lawyer with a schoolboy obsession. Rick declares that he will leave before any of them says anything they would later regret. He storms out as Cody watches. Stella advises Martin at the hospital that if he doesn't take precautions, his back problem may be considered a pre-existing condition, and the insurance company may refuse to pay. She rants about how too many firms fail to pay patients what they are entitled to. Martin swears to defend her if necessary. Stella claims she tinkered with the system to aid him, which could land them both in hot water, so the less he knows about her actions the better. Laura informs Marco that she and Sunny have a family, but she doesn't agree with all he does. She expresses her condolences for his loss and wishes him and his family peace. She says goodbye and walks away. Marco complains to Lucas about Ezra being an ass, though Lucas agrees with him and blames Sunny for his mother's death. He hopes that does not come between them. Lucas insisted that Sunny had nothing to do with them. Marco would be devastated to lose Lucas to Sunny as well. Curtis obeys Drew's orders at Aroa. He has a piece written with the headline, "Did Sunny Corinthos end Natalia Ramirez?" At home, Sunny does not want Gio to be harmed as a result of his actions, so stay away from him for the time being. Gio agrees and they exchange a heartfelt hug. At the pool, Carly tells Joss that Sunny could have lost his daughter, so she wanted to tell her that she loves her. She simply urges Joss to be careful while living her life for her sake. At the boathouse, Jason tells Michael that Sam despised his work for Sunny, and that she was correct to protect Danny from him. He claims Michael does not deserve to lose his daughter, but it is the proper thing to do to protect her. Michael recalls telling Sasha that he would not be the type of father his father was, and that nothing like the fire at the penthouse or Charlie's would happen to his children. He hadn't expected to have to uphold that commitment so quickly. On the next General Hospital episode, Kai admits to Trina that he told Drew what her father was planning. Portia criticizes Curtis for not being deserving. At the Brown Dog, Anna asks Isaiah to cover for her. Joss tells Vaughn, "It's either me or her." Laura tells Lulu, "We're not going to let her get away with it." Tracy warns Chase that his wife is heading for disaster. With Michael at her side, Dante questions Brooklyn about why she would do that to his son. General Hospital spoilers for Wednesday, July 9th, state that Sunny Corinthos will kill Marco Rios, while Sasha Gilmore Corbin poses a bizarre inquiry. Drew Cain will also warn Willow Tate. So let's talk about what's next on the ABC serial. On Wednesday's GH episode, Lucas Jones will ask Carly Spencer for a favor. If there is anything Carly can do to prevent Sonny from pursuing Jen Sidwell, he may ask her to do so. Lucas will remain concerned about Sidwell and Sonny's increasing feud, especially since Marco could be caught in the middle of it all. There are valid grounds to be concerned, as Sonny has already hinted at an eye-for-an-eye penalty. Sonny does not mind if Marco dies as a result of Sidwell. Sonny will restate his viewpoint in a future conversation with Jason Morgan. Sonny will want to send a strong message because he is still upset about the pub fire that endangered Christina Corinthos Davis. "You come after my child, your child will pay," Sonny says in Wednesday's preview video. Over with Jordan Ashford, she will inform Curtis Ashford that she does not want to cause further problems in his marriage. That is why Jordan will insist on removing herself from Curtis' orbit completely. While Rick Lansing attempts to persuade Elizabeth Baldwin to accept an offer, Felicia Scorpio will approach Curtis with some crucial news. Will Felicia provide some Jacinda updates? Will Jacinda agree to meet with Curtis and hear him out? If this conference is set to take place in Port Charles, Drew may have an opportunity for some espionage games. Drew will hint to Kai Taylor about a sly plot, so we'll see if he can set Curtis up and video some bribery evidence. Drew will eventually catch up with Willow and give her a warning. If Drew suspects Willow is willing to compromise with Michael Corinthos on visitation, he may advise against it. Nonetheless, Michael will lay out some parameters later this week, and he may be persuaded to negotiate with Willow at some point. Of course, Michael has no idea Willow is the creepy stalker causing all of the Daisy Gilmore trouble at the Quartermaine estate. Sasha is a victim of gaslighting and appears to be losing it, so she will express her concerns on Wednesday's show. "Do you think I am crazy?" Sasha inquires in the promo clip. Michael may promise not to think that because he wants to reassure someone, even if he is privately worried about Sasha's mental health. Back at GH, Willow will run into Carly, who will snap about knowing what Willow done. Carly will not allow Willow get away with her acts, thus Willow may panic briefly, believing that her stalker plot has been revealed. In truth, Carly could be referring to the way Willow approached Wiley Corinthos at the Metro Court pool. According to General Hospital spoilers, Willow would do anything to keep her Daisy scheme a secret, but secrets tend to unravel in PC. General Hospital teasers indicate that a preview clip has been posted for Wednesday, July 9, 2025. It has Carly Spencer confronting Willow Tate. Meanwhile, Felicia Scorpio has an update for Curtis Ashford about Jacinda. Continue reading and let's discuss what's coming up on the ABC soap show. Jordan Ashford's decision. Let us start with Jordan Ashford, who goes to talk to Curtis. Despite her growing feelings for the ex, she plans to leave his life. Jordan will not tamper with someone's marriage. No matter how she thinks about Portia Robinson's poolside tantrums, Drew Cain's leverage over with Curtis, he will learn something about Jacinda from Felicia. However, Drew Cain has his own plot in the works. Drew is shown in the preview film telling Kai Taylor about a strategy he has put in place. This could have something to do with Drew learning about Curtis' search for Jacinda. Drew will also tell Willow to keep away from her children for the time being. If the nurse proceeds with her plan, she may wind up in prison. Fans, however, are aware that Willow is the one gaslighting Sasha Gilmore. The new mother will be horrified that everyone thinks she's insane. But Michael Corinthos assures her that he doesn't. Willow works at the hospital's nursing station. Carly confronts Willow in the preview clip, telling her that she will not get away with it. Michael may not tell the judicial system, but Carly certainly will. However, Carly is only aware of Willow approaching Wiley Corinthos at the Metro Court pool. She had no idea that Willow is also torturing Sasha. Rick Lansing's romantic request. General Hospital spoilers for today's episode indicate that Rick Lansing offers an invitation to Elizabeth Liz Baldwin. Back to Carly, she receives a request from Lucas Jones, so it's possible that Marco Rios was involved. In addition, Sonny Corinthos provides Jason Morgan with his opinion. Since Jen Sidwell pursued Christina Corinthos Davis, Sonny believes Marco is not beyond limits. The mob conflict appears to be developing into a messy, bloody disaster, so stay tuned for all the action. Which narrative are you most looking forward to watching on Wednesday, July 9, 2025? Share your opinions in the comments area below. Keep watching ABC soap operas to find out what happens next. Michael stood in the dark light of his office, arms crossed and gaze fixed on the Port Charles skyline beyond his window. The decision weighed heavily on him, and it was one he never expected to have to make. Sasha had come to him with Daisy, both ladies determined to find freedom. They were not fleeing. Not precisely. They wanted to start over somewhere else, away from the chaos and the never-ending cycle of pain that Port Charles had become for them. Sasha desired tranquility. Daisy required space to heal. However, their request was more complicated than simply packing up and leaving. Not with Corinthos' name intertwined in their lives. When Michael turned to face them earlier that day, he'd already made his decision. "You can go," he said, his voice calm yet forceful. Sasha breathed, her shoulders softening somewhat, but Michael wasn't finished. "There's a catch." Sasha's gaze shifted to Daisy and then back to Michael. "What type of catch?" Michael stepped forward, his voice solemn. "If you leave, you won't just disappear. You'll be under surveillance. Quietly. No one will interfere, I vow, but I need to know you are safe. And if anything occurs..." Daisy flinched, not out of fear, but because the weight of his words felt like a stone. She had learned to trust Michael in unexpected ways. Still, the prospect of being tracked, even with good intentions, made her feel tethered again. But Sasha didn't fight back. She understood. Michael was not attempting to control them. He was trying to protect them in the only way he knew how, by keeping them within reach even from a distance. She nodded slowly, agreeing to his requirements. "We will take it. Whatever makes this feasible." They exchanged hugs. Not tightly, just enough to experience a sense of shared history, mutual respect, and a quiet farewell. Michael realized that might be the final time he saw Sasha. She had been through so much, lost so much, and yet somehow survived it all. She earned this chance even if it meant giving up some of her freedom. Later that evening, as Michael watched their car vanish down the road, he reflected on all they were leaving behind, and everything they would never get back. But he does not regret letting them leave. Not really. In Port Charles, Sonny, Corinthos and Gio stood outside the Corinthos warehouse. The night air was heavy with salt and diesel, and the docks were unusually silent for once. Gio had been looking forward to this meeting, but was unsure about its direction. He had proven himself loyal, resourceful and tough, but Sonny still hadn't entirely accepted him. Not in the same way that he had previously admitted Dex, Jason and Michael. But tonight seemed different. Sonny's countenance was unreadable as he lit a cigar and moved closer to Gio. "I need you to do something for me," he explained, his gaze narrowing slightly. Gio nodded. "Anything." "You say that," Sonny responded, taking a drag. "But you must understand that this isn't simply about loyalty. This is about trust. There will be no going back once I pass this over to you. You're in or you're out." Joe's jaw tightened. He wasn't sure what Sonny meant yet, but he knew it was one of those critical moments when one wrong answer may change everything. "There's a shipment coming in tomorrow," Sonny explained. "But that's not what this is about. That's only a cover. I urgently need you to follow someone. Quietly. No contact. No interference." Gio frowned. "Just eyes." "Who?" Sonny hesitated before revealing a name Gio had not expected. "Valentine Cassadine." Gio blinked. "You think he is..." "What? Is there a threat?" "I believe he's unpredictable," Sonny added. "And unpredictable individuals make blunders. I want to know what he's up to. Who is he talking to? Who is he working with? He's been too polished recently. I don't trust it." Gio nodded slowly, mentally ready for what was going to happen. Surveillance of Valentine was not just perilous. It may lead to his death. But Sonny chose him for a purpose. Perhaps it was time he delved more into Sonny's world. "How about Dex?" Gio asked carefully. Sonny's expression twitched briefly. "Dex is busy. I need someone new on this. Someone no one expects." That spoke more than Sonny knew. Gio was being tested, yes, but he was also granted access that few others had. He was entering a new level of trust. One that had its own set of perils and expectations. "I won't let you down," Gio promised. Sonny nodded sharply. "I know." Sasha and Daisy returned across town, reaching the outskirts of Port Charles. The city lights faded behind them, leaving the vast road ahead like a promise. Daisy observed Sasha from the passenger seat, attempting to determine how she was feeling. "Are you okay?" she asked softly. Sasha offered a small smile. "I believe so. It feels like I can finally breathe." They had no idea what awaited them on the other side of this decision. New cities brought with them new challenges and ghosts. But they also brought freedom. They were not fugitives. They were not running. They were only done. Michael's illness persisted in their minds, however. The fact that eyes were still on them and that their movements could be tracked, albeit discreetly, indicated that this was not perfect freedom. But it was close enough. Daisy was quiet for a moment. "Do you believe Michael will actually keep out of it?" Sasha reflected on the sight in Michael's eyes as he gave them his blessing. "I think he wants to," she added. "But if we were ever in difficulty, I believe he would come for us. No matter what." That didn't seem like a threat. It felt like a bizarre type of safety net. Meanwhile, Gio was already on the move. He had seen Valentine before midnight. He did not make contact. He did not interfere. He only followed. Across alleys, through private clubs, and into meeting rooms that reeked of old money and secret dealings. Valentine moved like a guy with a plan, but Gio saw that as a problem. Everything appeared too planned. Something was happening. Valentine wasn't simply smoothing out his kingdom. He was relocating, retooling, and Gio began to suspect he was not doing it alone. He observed Valentine shake hands with a man in a fitted suit who fled nearly as fast as he appeared. Gio couldn't recognize the man's accent, and he had a scar going from his jaw to his ear. Not a local. Not someone you just meet. Gio took a picture and emailed it to Sunny with one word: target. Back at the warehouse, Sunny did not answer right away. He looked at the photograph for a long time, his expression unclear. He wasn't sure who the man was, but he would find out. And once he did, everything changed. Meanwhile, Michael received a different type of communication. Sasha had made it safely out of New York State, and they had spent the night someplace near the coast. That no one was following them, save for the silent eyes he'd set up. He sighed and sank back in his chair, alone in the quiet of his home. Letting go of Sasha had been more difficult than he had anticipated. They hadn't been lovers recently, but they had a history, and that history left its mark. Daisy, whom he barely knew, had tapped into something deep within him, perhaps a sense of obligation. He felt compelled to repair the damage his family's world had caused. He wondered if they would call, if they needed him. If Sasha ever returns, it will not be to resume up where things left off, but to demonstrate her ability to survive without the approval of others. Sunny was thinking the same thing, but in his own manner. Gio had just won a seat at the table, but tables in Sunny's world were sometimes marred by betrayal. The wrong action, the incorrect assumption, and all may unravel. But for now the board had been set. Sasha and Daisy were free. Gio was in deep. Sunny had a new shadow on his radar. And as Port Charles slept under the cover of another peaceful night, the actual storms were just starting to stir. Sunny Corinthos had reached a breaking point. For months the threats had been growing, initially subtle, shrouded in half-smiles and arranged deals whispered in backroom hallways. Marco's desire, however, was not only daring but also risky. He had underestimated Sunny, and more crucially, the loyalty and authority he still had in Port Charles. There were no more cautions or second chances. Marco had to leave. The confrontation took place late at night on the docks. Sunny stood alone, arms folded, gaze fixed forward, unmoved by the cold breeze blowing off the port. When Marco came, confident and accompanied by two of his own men, he assumed he had the upper hand. He smirked and issued another half-hearted threat disguised as a business offering, but Sunny did not flinch. His silence frightened Marco just enough to produce a pause, which was all Sunny required. Within moments, Sunny's own enforcers appeared from the shadows, efficient and silent. Marco's men were disarmed before they could reach for their firearms. Marco's swagger gave way to panic when he found himself alone and unexpectedly vulnerable. Sunny went forward, his voice low but deadly, and told him unequivocally, there was no place for him in Port Charles anymore. Marco might choose whether or not to stop breathing. Marco muttered promises of leaving, disappearing permanently, and never mentioning Sunny's name again. But Sunny had heard everything before. It wasn't about this particular betrayal. It was about the example. Marco had gone too far, attempting to cuddle up to Sunny's opponents and even whispering lies into the ears of individuals Sunny trusted. And then he made the ultimate mistake. He threatened Sunny's family. Even indirectly or potentially, you did not cross that line. Sunny gave the signal. Marco was pulled away while still shouting apologies and threats, which echoed uselessly into the night. Sunny didn't watch him leave. He merely turned, fixed the cuff on his coat, and walked away. The message was sent and was final. Sunny Corinthos wasn't just preserving his authority. He was asserting it. Anyone considering challenging him next should think twice. Meanwhile, in the quieter parts of Port Charles, a different kind of tension grew. Drew Kane, embroiled in a moral and emotional quandary, sat with Willow in her living room, both of them framed by the soothing glow of a table lamp that did nothing to thaw the icy air between them. They'd had this conversation several times already. Drew had tried to offer an olive branch, but it was thorny. Willow, ever the guardian of her children, was not going to let her guard down. Drew had presented a compromise: limited visitation, supervised, conditional, and closely monitored. He didn't expect Willow to suddenly trust him, especially after the devastation he'd caused over the previous months. But he hoped she'd realize the value of allowing the kids to maintain some sort of connection with him. Family, no matter how fragmented, was still important. But Willow remained unimpressed. Her mouth was set, and her hands clasped in her lap. Her tone was gentle, but her remarks were firm. "I can't do that," she replied. "Not after everything." She spoke quietly. She did not have to. The gentle anguish in her voice pierced more than any argument could. Drew felt it too. He leaned forward, elbows on knees, seeking her face for a sliver of softness, an opening that could be used for mercy. But all he saw was steel. No malice, no vengeance, just strong parental resolve. She wouldn't put her children's peace of mind at risk with a man who had consistently prioritized ambition over love. "I'm not trying to punish you," she said, almost sweetly. "However, they require constancy, stability. I need to know they are safe. And right now, I don't believe you can give them that." The quiet was heavier than anything they'd said aloud. Drew swallowed hard and nodded slightly, even as his heart sunk. He wasn't proud of his decisions. Not all of them, anyhow. And despite his efforts to rationalize them in the name of protection or strategy, he knew there were lines he'd crossed that couldn't be undone. Even so, the prospect of losing all contact with the children, that part of him that still felt entire, was almost unbearable. "I understand," he finally murmured, his voice aching with every syllable. "You are doing what you believe is best. I can't argue with that." Willow nodded once, her eyes moist but firm. "I hope this changes eventually. I really do." There was nothing else to say. Drew got up slowly, his limbs weighted with regret, and proceeded to the door. He halted and looked back, but Willow had already turned away, blinking the storm from her eyes. He went without saying anything else, and the gentle click of the door closing served as a definitive judgment. Drew couldn't help but reflect on his journey to Port Charles as he wandered through the calm streets. The transition from trusted ally to considered enemy, father figure to persona non grata, had been swift and violent. Part of him wanted to fight and keep pushing until he got what he wanted. But another part, the part that had previously been a soldier, a brother, and a father, saw that sometimes the greatest act of love is to step back and allow healing to begin without you. Back on the other side of town, the effects of Sunny's decision with Marco began to spread. Marco was vanished, and word spread rapidly across the underworld. Vanished. Some speculated that Sunny had finally softened and let him live, banishing him to a remote part of the planet. Others were not so convinced. But everyone agreed on one thing: Sunny Corinthos was no guy to cross. Jason Morgan, Sunny's most trusted enforcer and longtime buddy, understood the message loud and clear. He met with Sunny the next day, not to question him, but to confirm his position alongside him. Jason didn't need to ask what had happened. He merely needed to know that Sunny was still in charge, the man who held Port Charles together with equal parts fear and loyalty.